So you want to be a Chief Information Security Officer, a CISO. Well, what is a CISO? It's the person responsible for cybersecurity in a company. Person ultimately responsible for risk and compliance and governance and developing the information security program. A lot of times leading career development for the security team, doing staff training and security awareness training and testing of controls. A lot of times involved with audit, sometimes doing forensics, sometimes involved in picking those right solutions for incident response and identity management and security architecture. Really supporting domains that are, in the physical, logical, data, application user domains, whether it's frameworks and standards, application security, risk assessments, enterprise risk management, governance, threat intelligence, end user education, security operations, physical security, career development, security architecture. There's a lot. And if you're, this is just scratching the surface. There's a CISO mind map, which is done by Rafiq Rehman, where it really goes exhaustively into the elements that really a CISO does from day to day and is responsible for, and everything from selecting solutions to coming up with policy to being responsible to the board and enabling the business and selecting a lot of this, making decisions around enabling the business to succeed while reducing their risk. And so that may be training people, that may be budgeting, that may be testing and doing backups and restores, that may be anything. So incident readiness, sometimes even preparing media relations for the media after an exploit or after a breach. So Rafiq Rehman's CISO mind map is actually really handy to kind of get a grasp for all the things that you do. It's really exhaustive. Well, it's not exhaustive. I'm sure there's more, but it's a big mind map that kind of really shows you how large the scope of a CISO is. So what are kind of the qualities of a CISO? You should have a technical background. I'd say that is probably, the majority. You don't have to. You can come in from a business background. You can come into being a CISO without a technical background, as long as it's really the business, and having an eye for risk. I think a CFO might make a good CISO, because of that risk mindset. But usually they have a technical background, and not doesn't have to be a long one. You don't have to be in tech for 30 years to become a CISO. A lot of times people that become CISOs very quickly. If you look at a CISO's resume, a lot of CISOs are CISO after 5 years or so in security. So but getting your foot in the door and getting some experience is the beginning, and then growing from there. And technical background is not enough. You can become a security engineer and be a security engineer for the rest of your life. You have to learn to be business minded and really understand what the business needs and what the business is trying to do. So you geeking out about security controls does nothing for the business. Take kind of a top-down approach, look at the business's objectives and what it's trying to do. What are its major objectives and things it's trying to do to make money this year? And what its mission and vision and strategy are. And then say, given this, I have to reduce risk around these few things. We have to pen test this new application that's being launched. We have to do this and that. So you're kind of developing ideas, but don't communicate them right away. But once you learn really what the company is trying to do, gather ideas, and then you can start to develop an information security strategy and a program. And those ideas are technical things in that program. The business oftentimes doesn't care that you're running a pen test. They don't. They don't care that you're, turning off SMBV1 or forcing certificate authentication. They don't even know what that means. So those details, while good for your security engineers, when you become a CISO, are irrelevant. You need to be able to say that we're doing this to the security engineers, but that's where that technical background comes in handy. But mostly you're dealing with the business and you're dealing with the business needs. But still, that technical background comes in really handy as a security leader because you can see the red flags with security and architecture. And when you're working with vendors, you understand really where they're pulling the wool over your eyes because you understand the technical of what's going on. But once you become a CISO, a lot of those technical chops are going to fade away because you're not dealing with them every day. You're not on the SOC front lines and you're not in incident response front lines every day anymore. You're getting pulled into major incidents to lead and advise, but you're not sitting there hands on keyboards hacking stuff anymore. You are working on budgets in the roadmap and looking at how to reduce key vulnerabilities for the organization. So what else is kind of a hallmark of a CISO besides kind of being technical and understanding the business is good communication skills. You need to be able to communicate clearly when you need something, when there's new hardware, software, people, whatever that you need, and why, and what business need that's addressing. The business is not going to spend $1 million on a team for you unless there's something to tie that $1 million to. They're not going to spend, $500K in new Palo Alto firewalls for you if there's not a defensible reason for it. Like, why, would they do that without really a business plan around it? So you need to be able to communicate that plan and how it ties to their major initiatives. If the business is saying, okay, we're going to launch this new web app, it's going to be in AWS, it's going to be all the rage. We're already doing the marketing around it. We're already doing pre-sales. We're expecting some big remote promotions. We're already partnering up with companies. Our big launch is December 1st. And so you're planning the previous 3 months for December 1st and for this big launch. And it's time to think about, okay, what are the things that can trip us up during that launch? Okay, a DDoS, some reputational, stuff that may happen, brand damage, what can happen as far as the, DNS poisoning, fake domains around that, people putting up false domains that are close to your domain and ruining that experience. And people hacking your API, people, hacking identities, what controls need to be put in place. And then there's your code base. Your developers writing this application and using a dev environment. How is that protected? And how is that code being scanned? And is that code leaving the company? Is that IP on people's laptops? How can we control that? And how do we control, make sure that every time there's a build that happens, it's going through a thorough security analysis and testing. Being involved in creating that situation. And then, being organized is really important. And I've heard some people say that, when they want to go hire a CISO, one of the things to do after they interview them is go and walk them to the car. Because if they look at your car, they can tell if you're organized. If it's, old trash in the car everywhere, if it looks all gunked up, then it's a sign you're not organized. A CISO has a lot of chaos going on. And so a good CISO tends to be highly organized. There's a lot of chaos in life. And so the CISO himself or herself needs to be able to keep all of these streams of chaos organized and keep their teams organized, their budgets organized, the roadmap organized, deal with all the vulnerabilities, threats, risks, the organization effectively. And the CISO has to manage people effectively, has to be a good manager and a good leader, good at motivating teams, holding people responsible, and being responsible. Having the vision, understanding how to communicate objectives, create OKRs, create KPIs, manage people by metrics, which I don't love to do, but I'd rather manage them by outcome, than following them along the way. But I understand that those metrics are leading indicators of performance. And then, rewarding them for their outcomes and acknowledging them and really making them want to continue to succeed, creating a positive work environment and giving them what they need. If you think about servant leadership and just breaking down barriers so your team can succeed, oh, you need this, or, you guys are sitting on a log and you need a comfortable chair, things like that, you need new tech, like be your team's ally so that you can help them grow. Ethical. A CISO is ethical. They're making wise choices. They're following best practices. They understand about privacy and identity and keeping the organization's best interests at heart while keeping the employees and users and clients at heart too. So being ethical and making wise decisions on the fly is important. Really, if that CISO has kind of this ethics statement or this mission statement for who they are that really kind of defines them, that might help guide them through these decisions when it gets rough. When you're in a situation where you're like, okay, do we lie to the public and the user base about what just happened, or do we be honest and put up a status page and a press release about it? The CISO is proactive. They take steps to prevent cyber attacks. They're always on top of new vulnerabilities, new technology, and trying to be as current as they can, but also they're proactive about improving the architecture and the infrastructure. And that's where training employees comes in too, is a CISO really wants to improve what their team is doing proactively, so you're not trying to fix problems afterwards. They're resourceful. A lot of times they can't get the budget they need, so they have a plan B. They have a way to reduce risk even without budget. Obviously you're going to do what you can to influence and fight for budget, but it is what it is. Sometimes, the organization's downsizing, cutting, whatever, your budget's dwindling, you have to do what you can. They're innovators. They're along the same line. A lot of times they have to come up with creative solutions for problems. They think strategically. They're thinking about really the organization's goals and needs and improvising and coming up with their objectives based on the organizational objectives and understanding that security has to align with the business. It has to kind of, it has to have the business's goals in mind. The security can't go against the business. It's a quick way to get fired. That's a quick way to really have no buy-in to anything you do and just be the department and know. Ideally, you're everybody's best friend and you've built those relationships and alliances and partnerships within the company because they see that you are in alignment with them. You're helping them along. You're helping propel them downstream. You're helping remove barriers. And a CISO can manage risk. A risk comes everywhere. A CISO a lot of times has to work with legal, has to work with the finance team, CFOs. They're having to work with general counsel, in order to handle legal risk and financial risk. But there's also, other kinds of risk, reputational risk and other risks to the company, breach risk and privacy risk. So there is, a big part of a CISO is really just managing risk. That's what information security is. It's risk management. It's protecting corporate resources from that risk. So that's really what a CISO is, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot of domains, and there's a lot that is demanding upon you as a leader. And when you are in that chief leadership role, it's not easy. It's not going to be, vacation. being a senior executive for a company is the opposite of easy. There's a lot of expectations and pressure on you. Thanks.